I'm going to make you a co-host, and we can get these people in and just start talking just about what's going on from business.
You want me to let them in, or are you?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay. Here we go.
Our live audience is just popping in right now. And of course, I'm sitting here riding shotgun. So this is Shane, good to see you, brother. As always, wonderful to see you. We'll have a couple other people coming in and joining us. And of course, we are now live on YouTube. So Mitch Camage of the MCC world, that's the Mitch Camage and the Mitch Camage Coaching, the Savage in Business, and riding shotgun. And also highlighted for you today are my two brothers from other mothers, my co-conspirators, my fellow coaches, of course, Paul Falkowski and Matt Houston. Brothers, it's great to see you as always. For the couple people that are going to pop in live in our studio audience today, you're going to become part of this show. In fact, you know, we're on YouTube, but I always make sure that this says, one, this video is definitely not for kids. And two, because it's about business in the middle of a pandemic, dare I say, shit show. So as this shit show continues to evolve and grow, and I don't mean the MCC virtual box lunch, but I do mean business environment as we're coming to know our little audience that's here. Sheila's off camera for a moment. Not going to let that happen. Sheila, you're going to have to come on live for us in a moment. And Shane's got a beautiful background popping in there. It's here to, of course, answer questions, but to tell you the state of what's going on in business. So every week you can come and start to join us. And now I will say this ahead of time. Psst, it's not going to happen every week because life is like that. But pretty much every Friday, you're going to be able to come in and you'll see three of us or two of us or even one of us just talking about what we've been watching in our current marketplace, of course. So that would be some local information, geopolitically, regionally, business-wise, from in and around our area. So let's say the province, Western Canada, Canada overall, and what we're picking up with what is being laid down, of course, business across the world too. So think of it as a clearinghouse and really just a way for us to say bad words about business in the middle of a pandemic. But on that side as well, we're going to dive in right away. So Shane, Sheila, don't hesitate to drop some comments, chat. Feel free to pop on your microphone and say, hey, I saw this recently, because, of course, more hands make light work. And, of course, the better the information is, the smarter we make people out there. So with that right now, we are sitting here in our current marketplace because Paul lives, you know, a handful of blocks away from me. Matt lives a little further away, but we are just outside of Edmonton in Alberta in Canada, and we are experiencing our next real shutdown and lockdown. And as my wife will tell you, who went to an optometry appointment this morning and then decided to stop and buy some groceries just to add to our stuff, it's already started the chaos, which feels an awful lot like last year when this happened in Canada for the very first time. And with that, we see some things that are kind of startling and stark. So first of all, Paul, Matt, let's get some perspective. Of course, just say hi to the troops and tell me what you guys have experienced, because I got some things that I've been observing over the last month with business. Some of these are disturbing trends and some things are really positive, but let's get some perspective from both of you first. What have you guys noted with what's going on the last little while?
I've definitely been noticing that, you know, the stress level has ratcheted up a little bit. And a lot more people are taking leave or are calling in sick. And, you know, I think that also has to do with the schools that are shutting down. So, you know, if you've got little ones at home and you're trying to get them to pay attention to the computer screen for hours at a time, you know, that's quite the challenge. And that's the, you know, added more stress on top of what you have to do with your daily activities. So I've been just noticing that there's, you know, a lot more call-ins for sick days. There's a lot more call-ins, you know, for taking care of matters with kids or different matters at home. So that's added you know, that's really ratcheted up the stress to, you know, push forward in business. So that's what I've been observing in the last couple of weeks, and especially this week.
Yeah, and if I may, I'll kind of chime in on the, I guess, ratcheting up of stress levels. I'm currently living the first day of at-home learning for my kids. I have a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old. So, you know, what you don't see is that I've actually moved my entire office / studio in the world of today down another level so that there is at least one story barrier from sound. And yeah, it's obviously I had my day planned out days in advance, a week ago, and we've made adjustments because you just need to. And again, you need to be flexible enough in today's world. But, I've had to move the needle quite a bit because I don't expect my kids to be bang on this time around either. Right now, they're far more familiar with the scope of work and how to do this and that. But, I'm looking at them. What you guys don't see is that I have 3 or 4 screens going on right now. And one of them is in each of their rooms so that I can kind of help manage and coach and teach them from afar. Right. So we're all in it. We're in it to win it. They're not feeling the stress, although when their password doesn't work the first time, we see it. So the learning is going to be different. And, I'm going to be part of that learning. I'm probably going to be learning more than they are. And it's going to be about how first you can deal with it patiently and understand. And I think that the people in the room right now know me enough that, everything that I do has to come back to I'm doing it for family, right? So on days like today, it's simply this. I've pushed off a couple of phone calls. I've moved a couple of meetings so that I can, go up those levels, literally, figuratively, and say, hey, how can I help? And it's just part of what the game of work-life balance is nowadays. And, I'll say this, Mitch, you used a term that had a shit and a show in it. And it is what it is, right? It's a Friday. We're going to go to, and we're going to end on a high note because all of us through the last 15 months have, I think my kids have adjusted faster and more frequently to these changes than I have, right? And my youngest doesn't know school without a mask, right? And she knows more online than she does in person. So to her, it's just, is what it is. But again, I'm watching them right now. So as I look down, I see them, and one is definitely not doing schoolwork. They're playing Roblox, right? So, but you know what? C'est la vie at this point, because we all need to kind of get to what it is. And what it is that it's going to be family time, which will be great. And again, we all wish for it. So we have it now. And I'm interested to see how, the next 3 weeks of this works. But really, I'm just going to incorporate my kids into my work. And if they have a head pop up, and you may see that within the next hour as well, you may see my youngest pop her head up and say hi to everybody. And that's just going to be another meme for the internet, right? So we're here, and we're going to enjoy the journey for sure.
That's an interesting. So let's do this. I'm going to give you guys a couple of things to put some thinking into for a moment, but let's personalize this. It doesn't get more personal than that. Matt, you've got a 1984 style household right now without meaning to. You're not intruding on your kids' privacy and stuff like that, but simply because we have to manage from here. I mean, I was in the middle of a coaching call this morning when I could hear raised voices because, of course, both of my girls are there too. I mean, I got a 9-year-old and 5-year-old in my own home. I could hear raised voices upstairs, and not because anything was terrible was going on, but imagine the pressure and the stress that they're feeling, right? My 9-year-old's used to going to school. Last year, it was a shock to the system to come home for 2 months and essentially shorten the year, right? But then she went back to school in September. And my 5-year-old was going to go to school for the very first time at that moment. Like, Mitch, what does this have to do with business? Because each of these moments impacts us deeply. Last year, we came to March, where we have that singular catalyst moment in our current marketplace. It was Friday the 13th, and by Monday the 17th, it had shifted violently. So that would be a Tuesday the 17th. It had shifted violently where, well, Matt, you and I had a meeting that week in public in a restaurant on that Wednesday. I can remember that because we used to hold court the same place all the time.
Yeah.
Sawmill, you're in Edmonton, go get prime rib. It's delicious, right? There we go. They got their shout out for today. But we would often meet with clients variably from about 11 o'clock on a Wednesday until whatever time we'd be done. We'd go hold court in the middle of a restaurant. By the following week, we were here. But we were here. My wife, who is in rehabilitation medicine, was somewhere else in the house, and my kids were home. And they were just home. And that moved from where I would have been out of the house 10 or 12 or 15 hours a day to being here and having to navigate that. So we take this week. What happened? Well, my big girl is home today. My little one got sent home with a close contact, and no, she's not sick. So we're blessed. Nobody's got COVID in our household, but was sent home with a close contact. But we got that warning, 8 days after the close contact was supposed to have happened. So now all of a sudden she's home, and what is Mitch's new normal in business? So I'm a business coach. I'm supposed to be adaptive. I'm supposed to be resilient. I'm supposed to be smart and have a really good handle on my calendar. And I'm watching both you guys nod, and I'm watching Shane nod a little bit too in the background because I could see him up on my camera. He's going, yeah, I'm getting that too. Guess what happened this week? Tuesdays is normally a day where I know my 5-year-old is at home. And so I meet with clients first thing in the morning for this big chunk of time. And I got this great big hole in the middle of my calendar. People are like, Mitch, do you have time on Tuesday? Hell no. I'm hanging out with my little girl. And then in the afternoon, I got this little chunk. It's really concentrated, 2.5 hours where bang, 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 I do a bunch of stuff. Cool. And then Tuesday night, I've got clients as well to make room for that. But guess what? Wednesday, she'd normally go to school. Well, this week, my Wednesdays, they start 7:30 in the morning, and I'll meet with clients until 9 or 10 o'clock at night on a Wednesday, back to back to back, almost a half an hour in the morning and about an hour in the afternoon for a break. And otherwise, it just plows through. Well, guess what happened? I had those calls still. Now I had my daughter home. So you have to learn to manage and mitigate these things. This is what we're experiencing right now. This is what everybody's experiencing. You're going, Mitch, I don't have kids. Why does it matter to me? Because there is a client or customer. There is a vendor or supplier. There is an employee or your employer. There is a coworker right now for you. And now if you're going, listen, I'm 25 years old. I run my own business. I don't have any employees at all. And I only sell to other 25-year-olds. Why is this going to matter? Because right now, one of those 25-year-olds is taking care of a younger sibling, is watching, an older sibling navigate this with their kids, is listening to a neighbor yell at their kids right now through the wall. Or, even though I live in a house, not an apartment, I know, and I'll share this one in a moment, I know my neighbor saw the spectacle that was my backyard 2 days ago. And you guys have all heard that story, so I'm going to share it live on YouTube in a moment. But everybody here has heard the spectacle from my backyard, and I know my neighbors are watching. And guess what? Everybody's immune right now because I've listened to them have those moments with their kids too. So that has a direct correlation and a direct effect on business and what's happening here. Because every moment that I got to break away and go off to do something else isn't a moment where I'm not making money. It's a moment where I got to reset. It's a moment where I got to shift my attention someplace else. It's a moment where wherever I was doing that had a task orientation here, had to leave for something more critical. And in many instances, more important, because what's more important than our children? Well, being able to pay our mortgages and keep our utilities running and putting food on the table. And who's noticed that it's getting more expensive? Price of gas has gone up. We're not driving an awful lot, right? Price of jug of milk has gone up. Well, here's the business coach telling you why that is for a moment. It's not because these things are becoming more expensive. It's because our monetary system, the value of our dollar is deflating. The value of the dollar we have is actually decreasing, which is making our prices go up. It's not because the milk producers or the grain producers or the bread producers or the cereal producers or the jam producers or the peanut butter producers or the clothing and shoe producers are going, screw you, we got to charge you more. No. The value of our dollar is actually dropping. So these prices are being reflected in the price right now. So now where our money's worth less, we're spending less, but it's worth less. So we have to spend more to maintain the same thing. And money's getting even tighter, right? Mm-hmm. And yet we can do what? I can hear my wife right now because she's on a break at work and my kids all talking up there. Everybody's happy. They're having a really good chat right now. But I'm always aware that there's this little part of me that's being pulled way over to there at the moment instead of being 100% present here. Doing what? Trying to make a little more of this. I'm watching heads nod, experiences, feelings, thoughts, what's going on. Because right now in Alberta, it just happened today. Restrictions locked up again. That's going to make milk harder to come by, plus more expensive, right?
I started my business in the middle of a pandemic. I've all my son is known as online school, much like Matt's daughter. And my wife was laid off just back in January for various reasons, due to market conditions. And my house is full of 4 people at all times. It doesn't stop. And it definitely has some challenges. It definitely has some not so shiny moments of standing out on a deck and having those very loud conversations. And then we also hear the giggles, the laughs, all of the love that happens in this household as well. So it's a mixed bag. Running a business, running a house, having a family, all of that is a blessing and also a challenge all at the same time. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Well said, Chid. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much for that. That is experiential, empirical, and anecdotal all at once, because we're all nodding our heads going, that's what I'm living through. So that's experiential, right? It's empirical. I'm telling you what I've gone through. It's anecdotal because at any point in the time in the future, we can say, Shane popped up in here for a virtual box lunch and said, yeah, I guess we're going through. So here's my take on this week as well, to tell you what it's like to just have to divide these attentions for a moment. If you are, and I won't say blessed, but if you are fortunate enough to have less obligation where it's just focusing more on yourself during this time. By the way, if you're by yourself during a pandemic, this is lonely as hell. This is fucking terrible. This is dog shit, right? It's absolutely useless. Yeah, I keep using the bad words. Don't worry. I tabbed this on YouTube saying not for children, right? But it's fucking terrible right now. You know, most people are used to nowadays using this to communicate in some fashion or form, whether it's booty calls or dating or even talking to your parents or whatever it is. So think about this for a moment. The current lockdown conditions in Alberta allows for 2 households in a close cohort, actually meaning that they address the idea that some people might have aging parents, or some people might have children or whatever it is, and the idea that you had to isolate away from even individuals inside your close family unit that may live in a second household became tougher and tougher to manage, and they noticed that people weren't doing it. So they allowed for 2 household cohorts, meaning that, example, my household and let's say my parents' household could cohabitate as long as everybody's safe and clean and whatever else it is. But there's people in there too that have nobody, that have nothing. People that rely on this for all their interactions. Well, thankfully, we can still have food delivered to our house at our door, but there shouldn't be any more booty calls. There's no more dating. There's no restaurants to go to. There's no coffee to drink. There's none of this other stuff that you can sort of do. So you're blessed, I guess, by yourself because you've got time to focus on your business, but you ain't seeing your friends. Mm-hmm. You ain't seen anybody in a relationship that you got for a while. Well, maybe you're blessed because you don't have to talk to your ex anymore, but you can't even talk to your ex. You can't even go pick up your stuff, right? So all these things contribute to eating away at the most valuable resource we've got, which is kicking around right in here while we're going through what we got here. And because of that, we start to lose, we start to mitigate, we start to drop off. Right now in our marketplace, has never been a better time to both buy and sell real estate. Yep. Prices haven't skyrocketed or escalated really, but the speed with which property sells tells you that it's a seller's market, right? My brother just this week listed his house for less than 24 hours, sold it immediately, but wanted to go buy a brand new property and had to get in a bidding war with 4 other people, right? And had to have the least number of conditions. So is that a buyer or a seller's market? Well, you normally see one or the other in real estate. So you say, great, Mitch, it's a good time to buy. Well, what does it take to buy? Money. Damn near everybody who's buying or selling a house right now has to rely on being able to sell their property to be able to buy the next one. And the price has to be so comparable because the average loss in income, and Shane, thank you for sharing that as well. Shane just had something happen. Now, his household could be blessed. One of the partners could be doing really well for themselves, but it doesn't mean that nobody doesn't feel the loss of your other partner or spouse's income, even if you're doing really well, right? The past year in this pandemic, while, I've been fortunate to work with really good companies, we've been fortunate to keep everybody moving over now, 16 months, but, 13 months of a pandemic. That still meant a significant loss in my income. It dropped quite a bit. If my wife wasn't going to work tomorrow, we'd have some tough conversations. If I don't go to work tomorrow, we're probably not paying our bills, right? So these are the things that we have to mitigate, manage on a daily basis, because right now we got far less of this in our pocket or in our bank than we've ever had at any given time. There are the haves and the have-nots. Now, while we're, a good portion of our population, a good portion of people are still doing okay and keeping moving, ask the next small business owner you talk to or somebody in your family how much money is owed to them as opposed to how much they've been paid. How much is their accounts receivable at? Right? How much is aging? Statistically, right now, and these statistics are coming from I want to say it's Intuit, and forgive me for not remembering where they come from. Is once upon a time, and once upon a time I mean just a year ago, if somebody owed you money, and AR is accounts receivable, that's the fancy term in accounting, means people owe you money. You sell them something and they promise to pay. You got an invoice or a bill outstanding, they're going to pay you in a certain amount of time. And the rule of thumb was you never let your AR age out over 30 and then 60 and then 90 days. Because every day you go past 30, it just takes a little longer to pay, and the percentage of chance of them defaulting or just deciding not to pay or only paying a portion of it starts to increase. But 90 was that magic cutoff. You get to 91 days, that's where it starts to skyrocket the amount of businesses that are losing portions or 100% of their AR. In other words, Paul owes me money for $1,000. No, Paul doesn't owe me money. Doesn't owe me $1,000. But Paul owes me $1,000. I send him an invoice. In 30 days, the percentage chance of him not paying starts to increase. At day 90, that starts to increase to where it actually goes to double digits, 10%, 12%, 15, 20, 30, 50, whatever. And it will climb until you get out to over the half a year mark, where failure rates inside of your AR start to climb up into the 80% range, which means $8 in $10 that are 180 days plus old, 182 days or older, likely you're not going to collect. So it means you've got to get paid now. Well, the statistics coming out, and once again, I'm just going to say Intuit, and I can't remember if that's where it came from, so I apologize. It's right now 32 days. So we've shrunk from 91 days to 32 days. It's sped up 2 times faster for default and failure rates to start to increase. So if you have outstanding AR and stuff like that, think about that for a moment. You've done the business. Now that you've done the business, your accountant is going to do your year end. Your year end is going to show that AR, that was business received. If you got paid all of it, doesn't matter, because guess who wants their money? Revenue Canada. I know they're not heartless or soulless, and yes, you can take write-downs on on expiring and bad debt and other things like that. That's the fancy accounting side of things. So if you don't have a good accountant and you understood none of that in your business or what I just said, you need to ask your accountant to explain it. And if they can't, get a new accountant, right? But every dollar that goes by, you know what that means right now at day 32? You ain't making your mortgage payment next month. It's not a good shot. Yeah, and so here's the difference between about day 30 and about day 90. That goes from about 2 or 3% failure rate at day 30 to about 12 to 18% at day 90. From day 90 to day 100, 110, 120, it starts to skyrocket to the 30 or 40% range. You get to day 182, it's 80% failure on your AR. Well, that's moved forward from day 90 to day 32. It starts to skyrocket. So you aren't going to 180 days right now to lose $8 out of 10. You're going to about day 110. Well, we just went through another lockdown right now. If you've done business this week, if people don't pay you by the middle of July, you ain't getting the money. It is the first week of May, and if you don't get paid by the middle of July, kiss 8 out of $10 goodbye. Now, where I say there's the haves and the have-nots, lots of people are doing business. Lots of people are expressing this growth, this fattening up of their accounts receivable. Very little is transmitting into the form of cash. So you've got businesses that are cash flowing well, a whole bunch of businesses that are at least holding their own or could even be having good years. But that line where I'm getting paid and where business is still doing well or business is in the toilet because it's shut down, let's say due to the pandemic kind of industry you're in, this is a huge portion of business. Right around that 70% mark, right about the 7 in 10 businesses are having cash flow issues and tightening up. So if you think that you're not going to get paid 8 out of $10 in the next 70 to 90 days, how long is it going to take for you to miss a mortgage payment? How long is it going to take to miss a utility payment? How long is it going to take with the deflation of the value of $1 compared to the price of a jug of milk before buying milk is a complete nightmare. Never mind everything else you need, paying utility bills and stuff like that. So these are the things we've got to kind of watch for. It's the stuff that we're going through right now, which means, lessons to take away. Your accounts receivable, you've got to talk to people on a regular basis. You've got to get a sense of what's going on. You got to get paid regularly. Paul, Matt, what are you guys watching out there too? I mean, you're talking to clients all the time, and it's not just, you're not just business coaches. You got other things going on. Paul's an absolute guru and a genius when it comes to real estate. Matt's got so many other businesses going on right now. The guy's in non-fiat currency, and he's in property management, multiple doors, and utility brokerage and stuff like that. What are you guys seeing and experiencing right now? Because you've got different perspectives, but that likely is all going to relate to the same kind of behavior that we're seeing.
I'm seeing people definitely refinancing. They're taking the money out and taking advantage of the cheaper rates that are being offered right now, and locking them in. Some of the people in my circle are actually buying more property at this time and expanding their portfolio. Yeah, I think there's always opportunity. It's how you're looking at it, and it's how can I, rather than looking at the price of gas. Because you keep looking at those things and you'll just be depressed and you won't come outside. So it's I'm running into people who are being creative. I'm running into people who are going, yes, this, we've gone through this before. Maybe, yeah, it's ratcheted up a little bit. Now the kids are home, but we'll adjust through this too. I don't think it'll take them that long. I just think that, overall, I think everybody just needs a break. I think we all need a little bit of a holiday, just to, unplug, throw the phone away, and just be in the moment at that time. And I think that's where a lot of the frustration is a lot of things that we're just freely used to doing. We don't have that opportunity anymore. So, there's definitely going to be some tougher stuff coming down the lines financially. I definitely see that. I don't see the full ripple effect of the coronavirus impact. Once money stops flowing and taxation starts to increase, it's just going to accelerate on that side. So, bankruptcies and foreclosures are in my estimation, are definitely going to increase until everything adjusts, right? As some industries are picking up, others are slowing down. Just talked to a gentleman this morning, actually. He's back to directional drilling. And, having the conversation with him, he's like, okay, well, where was your pay at the peak? And he's like, I'm at $1,100. And where was your peak, your pay at the bottom? He's like, $450. So now they're somewhere in the middle. They're in that $600 range. And he's like, even he admitted like $1,100 is insane amount of money. It was never, too sustainable. But now they're kind of back in a decent sweet spot as long as oil stays around $60. So we are starting to see some of that ramp up again, which of course for Alberta will definitely help in this time. So, I mean, I guess you could call them green shoots that are still there. And then, as we know, technology and working from home, we're seeing a lot of that movement. Talking to some friends out in New Brunswick, housing is on fire there. If you put a sign out and 2 hours later it's sold, and the prices are going up. Why? I don't have to work in Toronto anymore. I don't have to work in Montreal anymore. I don't have to be in Alberta with these winters anymore. So we're finding that the populations are moving with the help of technology. So, now I can enjoy the coast. Now I can enjoy lobster season, which is just beginning. Who wouldn't want to partake in that? And so there's a lot of different things. So it's going to be interesting to see how the eastern provinces fare going forward, where you're able to live in an area that you want to live in, smaller town living, a lot of things to do outside, and still be able to go to work. And if you do have to go to the office, I'm thinking it's going to be more on a quarterly basis, or it might be a once a month type of thing where you can fly back or you can go back on that. So I've seen, some numbers and figures, but everything has to be sifted out. Not everybody can be shut in their house and just, work on a video feed. We still need that human interaction. So I think we're going to see, working at home is great and it's going to be high, and then it's going to taper off and level out somewhere in the middle. So maybe in that 40% range where people will, for the majority of them, they'll work home. And then people would definitely be going back to the offices, or, more of a shared space situation.
You brought up shared space, and Matt, I'll get you to chime in on this in a moment, because obviously you're into doors and you got your own perspective. But shared space, I've got a good friend of mine, and he is probably one of the top 10 experts in modular office and shared office spaces. And he lives down in Texas. He flies all over the world. He works with some of the biggest advocacy groups. He works on on the board of directors for all the shared workspace for all of North America and stuff like that. Absolutely genius at what he does. And the spike in businesses shifting away from physical property and moving their employees to, we've got a hub with a much smaller office, but here's our, and I just saw a picture of this with a brand new client they brought on board. They got something like 1,000 or 1,200 employees. They downsized, got out of their lease entirely. The property they were just in this past month went to a smaller hub, which only allows for maybe 80 or 100 employees, and got 3 of these shared office spaces centered around, like pinned into the outskirts of what would be downtown. And I can't remember which city this is in the United States, but they moved this there instead. And here you go. You can either work at home or you can come into one of these places as well. We've been paying for the accounts for all this. If you want that shared work environment, or you got meetings or whatever it is, here you go. You got access to the boardrooms. You can always come to the main office, but here you go. We got these 3 different hubs that you can go to, otherwise work at home. And they've created mobility for 80% of their employees. Go do what you got to do, and here's access to the resources as well. So you're seeing this kind of shift happen quite a bit. Matt, thoughts?
Yeah, I totally agree. And, like I've dealt with some clients here locally, obviously out in Toronto and Ontario, the people that are in Newmarket and had to drive the hour and 45 minutes into town. Well, now that's work time, right? And even, I guess, talking back to the very beginning of our conversation, right? Like, I work off momentum. So like once I start going, it's like, okay, I need to continue that. Right now on days like today, where I have kids kind of chirping at me, this, that, and the other, it's up, down, up, down. But I need to realize that, again, going back 16 months, I would have spent close to 30 hours a week getting to work, getting to a client. So I just need to take that step back and realize, okay, how do I convert that into today's world, right? So that's number one. And yes, the co-work space, I deal with a couple of our business incubators here in Edmonton, and they're sourcing us out now, right? They're going, listen, how do we help connect the dots for these companies that used to have 6,000 square feet on the 32nd floor of Scotia, and they know better, right? So we're dealing with that on twofold. Obviously, we want to look to help lease out and partner with these people that have those spaces downtown. We want the energy, like, again, coming from Edmonton, born and bred, we lost energy in the downtown core because of our large retail outlet in the West End, right? So I'm a big advocate of pushing it back downtown. I love seeing what we currently are seeing physically down there. Now, obviously through COVID, it really threw that big wrench into the cogs, I guess you would say, right? So, but like, yes, I agree that we need to be able to bring people together. There will always be that component, but I was reading on the BBC that in the UK alone, they're expecting over 2 million of their workforce, 2 million people within their workforce, not to go back to in office, right? So we don't have those numbers here. And honestly, who's to say what that's going to look like here, right? All I know is that I don't mind this, and I'm a people person, right? So again, I feed off of energy in a room. I love being in a room of, a dozen, hundreds, whatever it may be. But I don't mind the fact that I can hit this red button that says leave and be in a brand new space with brand new people that could be national or international within moments, right? So, talking about, Mitch, you talked about some businesses are having their best year ever. Well, I typically will challenge them. What does that mean? Is that your top line that you're talking about? Is that sales? Because yes, there are certainly a great deal of businesses that are selling quite a bit. But if that's not translating through their profit and loss to that very bottom line, all that is more work, right? And when you factor in the AR, AP, and their cash flow, that's the biggest thing that I focus on with my clients, right? Is that, listen, how much money's in your jeans right now? And that's really it. And, you talk about utility payments and this and that. Well, scale that and compound that up, right? Like I'm now scaling my teams, right? And I was looking for one of those C-suite executives that want to go out and build out, business development for non-fiat currency, right? With barter pay. Now, people have come to me, professionals have come to me saying, Matt, I've come from a restaurant background. And they're like, why aren't you kind of highlighting first your expertise in that field, but capturing those people that may be third year, fourth year university students that are BCom or marketing or this and that typically would work for 4 months of the summer at a restaurant. Well, obviously that's it's not going to happen this year, right? So now I've kind of focused on, hey, why don't I reconnect with these type of individuals and say, listen, go forth and go into the environment, whether or not it's cold calling or others, right? But we can help kind of bridge the gap there too. So I've reached out to my restaurant clients and to say, listen, why don't we utilize this conversation as an added benefit to your team? Hey, you know what? We know that you're not going to come back as a full-time employee. We don't expect it to be, the new normal, whatever we want to call it. But in order to help bridge the financial gap, let's see what we can do. Let's get you in contact with us, right? So again, speaking to what Paul said, there's, people are still growing, people are still making money, but we have to be that creative force that Albertans really didn't need to be, right? Like I speak often that we were so prosperous for so long, sleeping on beds of money when oil was 140 a barrel, that small to medium-sized business owners didn't really need to understand the intricacies of their business and their cost of goods, right? Or cash flow. If their costs went up by 2 points, they would just increase their invoice by 5, hence the Alberta problem, right? So now it's about, hey, if I can help shave off like quite literally a half a point here, that may be the difference of you clicking that open sign on tomorrow or the next day, right? Whether or not it's locked down or not, right? So that's really been a key focus for my strategy is listen, like it's not about top line sales. I think that's amazing and that's growth, awesome. But if it's not translating to the bottom line, right, and putting money in your jeans, you're just working harder. Now we're all working in different ways, like we're talking like this is not what I would be doing, right? Now, I just didn't know any better. I will be doing this. Even when we go into whatever the world looks like post-pandemic, we've created a habit for ourselves here, right? And yes, there's going to be that big wave, that big rush of people just getting out and about. My family and I are going to be one of those families, right? Like we will go out and support local all the time. The first lockdown ended, I forget the date, but I do remember the fact that it was, okay, we are going to go out as a family. We're not going to show fear or trepidation or whatever you want to call it. We went out to a restaurant and sat out on a patio. And I just recall my wife and I going, like, the world that we know is over, right? And that was a year ago. So now we've gone through this. And again, we've become more habitual with certain things. And yeah, putting on a mask and throwing it on, like, it's just become more of a habit. So it's less of an effort, which is great. But now we need to be able to translate that into the bookkeeping part of it, right? So Mitch, you had talked about anything in the AR world past 90, the percentage of actually like recouping that money is quite low. Well, now if the math is 32 days, how does that affect all business? Because it does affect all business, right? So how are we putting that into play and through our conversations? And again, whether or not you're a business coach or not, I operate a business. Well, I agree with you. I've never had so much like accounts receivable in the last 7 years of running this business, right? Now, I'm mindful of the amount of work that I'm doing, but again, I'm also very transparent with my clients saying, listen, like, I want to get this work done for you, but we're not going to do it right now because I know you're going to be closed dark for the next 21 days. So why don't we revisit it at the 14-day mark of this lockdown? Maybe we can get that work done the last week that you're closed because that would be convenient for everyone. But please understand that like the transaction needs to be completed, right? So like if only one part of the transaction, which is the work, is being done, that's not a complete transaction, right? And that's not why any of us are in business. So it's now just being very upfront and honest. How are we going to do this? And I'm obviously creative with the way that people can pay. Now we just need to make sure that we can pay because ultimately we all need to put food on the table, right? Like I don't want to be watching my girls on this screen below me here, right? And I'm not hiding it. It's not Big Brother or Dad looking down. I said, hey, we're moving these cameras into your rooms just during school time, just so that if you need to, you can do one of these and wave at me and I go, okay, now I know they need me for something, right? But it's so weird. Like I'm mid 40s and I'm so thankful and grateful that we have the technology piece right now. And Shane, you can speak to this maybe, right? But could you imagine going through this pandemic 15 years ago, right? And I was chatting on a syndicate tribe meeting yesterday, right? And the conversation got all over the place, right? But it was, how would we have dealt with the pandemic 15 years ago without the technology piece that we have? And one person chimed up and they were like, I don't think we would have had the pandemic if we didn't have the social media and the this and the that. Now, I'm not here to talk policy, politics, or health and wellness. It's just simply I'm grateful that I'm able to sit in the room with you boys and girls digitally, because if it was 15 years ago, like I would be waiting for a page or a fax or like something to come back and hopefully do a transaction, right? Like, can you imagine fax and carbon copy days, or like the last generation to have to do business? It like, oh, it terrifies me. Terrifies me.
Well, you say that, and my dad was a career salesperson. He sold things from the time he graduated high school until the day he retired. And you could count on one hand the number of companies he worked with, but he was a route salesperson working his territory, driving around with a vehicle with product and stock in the back. And he did that every day of his professional life for 40 odd years. His job would be gone. You know, yeah, we got guys that are slinging Coke and potato chips and stuff like that, but his job would be gone. It'd evaporate. There'd be nothing left of that as well. So that's really interesting. And Matt, while you're talking, it's occurred to me. So here's a part of that shouldn't be all the doom and gloom, but the really cool stuff that we've got to observe over the last little while. And again, Paul and Matt, I'm going to get you guys involved in this part too. I've obviously worked with a lot of businesses. You know, I've been doing this for 8 years. I've worked with hundreds of companies. You know, last year I talked to 2,600 business owners, thanks to my other organization, right? Thanks to Syndicate. You know, Matt, you brought it up already. Thanks to Syndicate, I got the chance to talk to 2,600 business owners last year. I worked with hundreds of companies over the last 8 years as well, directly as a business coach. I have never in my entire life seen a warning window, a warning blip pop up like I did just 2 weeks ago. I had somebody ask me to help them incorporate a new business. This is where this is going. And to do that, actually, the engine's really slick, really quick, just inside of Canada. Yes, you should make sure that you got trusted advisors, like a really smart business coach or an accountant or an attorney that specializes in doing this sorts of stuff. But you can also incorporate yourself. And in Canada, you can go to the Government of Canada's website and incorporate federally, get your federal company set up. I've never seen the little warning blip that popped up at the top of the page when I was incorporating somebody else's business. Due to the volume of requests we have for incorporation, we are 5 business days behind being able to serve your needs. Please be patient, or if you like, you can pay an extra $100 to get rush service. I have never seen that warning window in 8 years, and hundreds of companies I've worked with. In all the times I've incorporated businesses, I've never once seen it. We have more incorporations happening right now than any other time. Depending on segment and sector, we're going, okay, here's a scary number, 30, 40% unemployment. But we've never had more incorporations than we've had in the last 90, 120 days. More people are choosing to start their own business right now. We've also never had more money available in the marketplace like it is right now for people that are looking to get into it. Grants, loans, government-backed money, etc. So the ability for people to be able to get involved, but they have to, of course, what do? They start at ground zero, learning how to run a business. So there's a cautionary tale there when money's so goddamn tight that you got to make sure, Matt, to what you're talking about, are you having a good year because the amount of stuff you've done is there? Or is it a good year because the amount of money matches the amount of stuff you did? So if you're going to start, you're going to incorporate that business. And I applaud you if you have set up a new business. Shane, my boy, right? Yeah. Now, I've known Shane for a lot of years. This man went completely back to his own thing in the middle of a pandemic. What? Right? That's the stuff right there. That is a ballsy move. That is scary as hell. So for everybody else that's out there, if you're doing it, you're thinking about it, or you've done it sometime in the last 12 months, get your hands on your money. But if you do, it's never been a better opportunity to do, because there are opportunities, there's money, and there are people that are looking. You just have to be really conscientious on price, etc. If you do that, then chances are you're going to be able to get by. Because once more, there might just be a much smaller pocket than normal that are really killing it on both ends, did lots of stuff and made lots of money. But those ones in that center pocket there, every time they preserve, save, or do good work and get paid for it, they're inching themselves closer to the ones that are the haves as opposed to the have-nots. And it doesn't mean there's a reduced supply of money. If there's this many people as we've got right now starting businesses, Clearly, there's a drive and a need for people to become, well, the masters and mistresses, the queens and kings of their own domain, to really be heading up their own business. So, Paul, Matt, let's get a couple of thoughts. We got a few minutes left with us today as well. Or Shane, you got something else to chip in there, brother? I know you've been experiencing this. Now, you're not a stranger to business, but you're back on your own. You're back in your own saddle for a year in the pandemic. What's been going on for you?
Yeah, you know what? We were fortunate to start the business before the pandemic started. So we had a lot of things set up well beforehand. And we were always conscious of making sure that our business was as liquid and capable as possible. And then March 19th happened, or whatever the date was back in 2020. It didn't change anything for us. We were very fortunate in that route. And you're talking about the AR and actually capability of making that cash in jeans. And we've been fortunate. We've only had one client that was like, "Hey, you know what? I need to close down for the lockdown, but keep invoicing me because I will pay those as soon as I'm back open." I'm like, "Okay." In that mind, I'll be trusting enough to actually continue to deliver service, knowing that, we have this great relationship. So why not continue to deliver it? And you know what? As soon as he was able to open back up, all invoices were paid on the same day of opening, essentially. And we've been fortunate with our client base that they haven't had to experience the effects of a lockdown. They've been in that essential business realm, and we've been fortunate. And I can't say the same for others in my industry and others that are in other industries as well. And it's behooving on us that are the haves to kind of band together and help those that are the have-nots right now. As much as we are experiencing a boom in business in my industry because of technology needs and the ability to be able to navigate the technology landscape, it's really important for us to be able to reach out to our clients and to those around us and saying, "Hey, you know what? We have the ability to be able to help you navigate this section. Let's help you move forward. Let's help you stay in business, keep that door open, just an extra day just to help you move along in the marketplace." And that's what I've experienced. And that's what I'm really enjoying doing right now is making sure that we're making sure those businesses are staying open just that much longer.
Fantastic. Good work, brother. You're doing the work of the angels there. Thank you very much for that. And Shane, thanks for sharing while we're on here as well. So for everybody that's listening to that as well, if you're conscientious, Matt's made that comment. Shane just talked about it here right now. If you're conscientious and you have really good discussions with people. Now, Matt said something important. If you talk to people ahead of time of what's going on, you can strategize, you can plan, you can work to mitigate, and you can more importantly work with people. She just brought it up too. He's got obviously the kind of relationship with his clients, customers, for them to be able to say, "Listen, I have to do this, but this is what I want you to do. Work with me here. And when I come back to here, we're going to keep doing good work. So I want you to keep working like that." That speaks to trust and integrity, which are so essential. So you're going to see here as the pandemic continues to progress and as it continues to do what it does with business, and more importantly, as more businesses come into the marketplace, it's likely going to be a lot quicker to be able to understand who's doing business, let's say, with integrity, and those that don't. Like, that's something that you got to be really conscientious and careful about, because if you work with the right people and you work through the relationships, etc., the likelihood of your business surviving first, but then having an opportunity to thrive starts to really increase as well. So I got something I want to get your guys' opinion on real quick, and then Paul and Matt, I'm going to turn the floor back over to you guys for a moment here. But it's not the first instance, but it's near and dear to me because it's right in my local marketplace. So here's the YouTube shout out, even though they don't need it, to Local Meats here in Leduc, right? You're going to need to go to them, localmeats.ca. You got to check them out. Why? Is their Facebook page last couple of days, and the business owner over there is absolutely a fantastic guy, even though he is a Pittsburgh Steelers fan and I'm a Packers fan. So, we'll continue to disagree on those kinds of things. Started to do something really cool, other than being really mad when new restrictions were being announced earlier this week. He went on onto Facebook, and it was just 4 posts. But each one of these 4 posts said, "Listen, the next pandemic, the next lockdown is coming up for the next 3 weeks or whatever it is. It's going to be really rough on businesses, and lots of businesses are talking about supporting local and helping each other, sharing, etc." But he goes, "I'm going to do something much better." And so he started with the barber shop that was next door, and said, "Hey, they're going to get locked down right away. The first 20 customers that come into my store today are getting a free COVID buzz cut on me. Come in, get your hair cut right now before they get locked down, and the barber's got to close up real quick. Come in and we're going to help." We're going to say, Shane's like, I got the hard walls going here right now, right? So he announced, "Come in and get a free haircut." right? He announced from a restaurant around the corner, and he went and got a gift card from them and said, hey, order from them, because all the restaurants are ordered for what? Pickup and delivery. Can't go into them, can't sit on the patios, et cetera, or whatever it is. We've got a $150 gift card and said the 10th customer that walks in the door is going to get this $150 gift card, right? He picked 4 of these businesses that were just in the immediate area because life's been good to him. His business is doing well, even amongst the pandemic. He's been doing lots of great things, incredibly popular, does wonderful products, but he had a chance to be able to give back, and so he did that. If we all did that a little more, guess what would happen, right? So we're gonna talk. I'm gonna give you a fancy word for a moment, and then Paul and Matt, you guys are gonna take the floor over here. Velocity. Now, velocity, as we know, if you've studied any physics at all, and we were all forced to when we went to high school once upon a time, don't know if that's part of curriculum anymore, but once upon a time, a long time ago, I was there. Well, velocity has similar meaning, but a very different purpose when you talk about money. And in fact, in economics, velocity is a term that refers to what happens as money changes hands. So there are 5 of us right now. We got Shane and Sheila as our virtual guests online right now. We've had people live joining us on YouTube and stuff like that. But let's just say it's the 5 of us here right now, our studio audience and our panel that are talking. This is what velocity is. I have $1. Nobody else has $1. I have $1. There's only $1 in this group of 5, but I take this dollar and I spend it with Paul. So the value of that money is $1 in transaction. Paul in turn takes that dollar and spends it with Matt. That dollar's now changed hands again. Matt spends it with Shane. Shane spends it with Sheila. Sheila spends it back with me. Only $1 has changed hands, but because of that, it's created the equivalent of 6 transactions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then because I'm back here, what am I going to do? I'm going to go spend it with Paul again, 6, the original one. So $1 has equated $5 worth of transaction value just amongst the 5 of us. That's called velocity. And so when we choose to expend that velocity just amongst our local businesses, it might be the same handful of dollars that are changing hands. But I discussed this concept a little bit last year in far more robust terms than this. But that velocity helps to keep everything moving. It helps to satisfy all of what we have to have done here, right? And past that, it means that Paul's got $1 spent now, and then Matt's got $1 spent, and then Shane's got $1 spent, and Sheila's got $1 spent, and in turn that comes back to me, and I've got $1 to spend. But Mitch, it's only the same dollar, but it's created $5 worth of value, and if I take that dollar immediately, it doesn't stop with it, I continue to spend it. That $1 just keeps moving amongst us, but it creates velocity. It creates the movement. So when we look to invest in our local marketplace, we're containing the velocity to the people that are closest to us in business. We're creating more economic value, even though we have reduced money to work with. And that's enormously important. So a business like Local Meats, for example, or anything else that we can do to support local, keeps that money contained, yes, in a much smaller environment, but starts to increase the velocity. Last year, just as a quick analogy, I said, imagine walking out the front door. Let's say you live in a house and you look one way and you see a few houses, and another way you look a few houses, and across the street, you see a row of houses. Imagine every house is a business. When the pandemic happened, so right now I would spend $1 at the house next door, and they'd spend $1 at the house next door, and they'd spend $1 at the house next door, and then they'd cross the street and they'd go house to house to house. And let's say there's 5 houses across the street, and it would get to the end, it would jump back across the street and come back over till it comes to my house. It's a finite amount of dollars, but that's velocity. It creates that around here. The pandemic and the lockdown, why it's so terrible is that it starts to do that. It actually starts to close certain houses, which slows down the velocity, the way place money can work. So let's say you come to where we're at right now, and let's say there's 10 houses on the street, 5 on our side, 5 on their side, and 4 close. Now we only have 6 houses to trade the same money off of. It slows down the impact of velocity. And so we come out of a lockdown, we go into another lockdown. Well, after we came out of the lockdown, we come back, 2 of those 4 houses reopen. Now we only have 8 houses on the street to work with. Our velocity is reduced by 2 houses. Next lockdown comes, 4 houses shut down during the next lockdown. Now we're down from 8 to 4 houses that are open, 4 are closed. Lockdown comes out, 2 reopen. We're at 6 out of 10. Velocity is reduced. The amount of money is actually still the same, but now it's reduced. What's happening? Things start to get more expensive. We're not making as much money as we used to. But what we're seeing right now is people are starting to reopen houses brand new. They take the old house away, they put a new house in. So now it's giving us spots to increase velocity. Paul, Matt, let's close out for the day. I want to capture your final thoughts. It's 12:56 p.m. So, ladies and gentlemen, as a preamble, before they talk, come and join us every week. We're going to be doing this, or we're going to try to be doing this every week as well. The whole panel is going to be here, Paul, Matt, myself, or at least some combination of the two of us. We'll try and have a live studio audience to get some perspective as well from inside your business and community. Hear about what other people are doing, what we're experiencing. This is not just about the pandemic. It's about what's going on in the marketplace, ideas, suggestions, advice. And of course, when we talk here, for example, if I take Sheila and Shane into account, we have decades worth of business experience just sitting here. But amongst the panel of the three of us, we have decades worth of experience of doing what? Working directly with people to fix some of these problems. So Paul, Matt, final thoughts before we close out the day.
I think it just gives us the opportunity to, take a little bit of time, because maybe we are able to do more than we used to from driving around, seeing clients. I know for myself, Matt, and even for yourself, Mitch, is go back to basics, go back and analyze what was working. What's your best product that you have? How much are you moving that volume? Who are your best clients on that side? So it is going back to basics and going, where can I cut? How can I increase my sales? How can I increase my bottom line without increasing my sales? And if we start asking ourselves a little bit more on those questions, then we can maybe move that. Well, we'll definitely move it up a little bit and have a little bit more money in our pockets, and we don't have to spend even more time in our business. And you can spend more time with your kids or your family on that. So I think really just going back and taking a look at everything can give you a little bit more perspective. And the other thing is so many people are cutting right now marketing, increasing your marketing while your competition is not doing it, and you're increasing your marketing is going to give you more market share in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
I will absolutely applaud that, because I've come from a marketing background, so obviously it's close to my heart. But I will always strongly suggest is that when everyone else is scaling back, you ramp up, because yes, market share and market penetration are key right now. And to kind of key on what Mitch had said earlier, velocity for me, it's frequency, right? So back in the restaurant days, there's only so many customers. There's actually so many people, right? So, and now more than ever, there's only so many people that have money. But if you can help them spend at you, right? So again, there's lots of, competition out there. And just let's talk about food and beverage specifically. They're all now ghost kitchens and this and that and delivery and takeout only. So for me, I would just say, focus on the customer that you have, not necessarily on spending a ton of money. Still market, but market to your people and get them to spend one more time a month, right? That's going to increase not only top line sales, but it will actually reflect down to your bottom line, because you know that customer and they know you, and you're going to have to spend less. So that's big. Frequency to me is like key right now, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you can just get the same person to spend one more time, what does that mean to your business? Plus cash flow. Secondary to that is always spend on marketing. Like you have to. And again, yes, you think that you can do free ad here and do this here and boost post here. That is something right now that you should most likely be outsourcing to a professional that understands what the noise in the marketplace is saying and doing, right? Like I can say, I know this. However, the marketing agencies are the ones that understand the algorithms, this, that, and the other, whatever it may be. And those are changing, right? Like I just updated my phone and it happens to be an Apple product, a fruit product. And with the new privacy portion of their update, I got to tell you, my social media looks completely different, because it's no longer able to capture some of the information of what rabbit hole I'm going down. Like it's incredible to me, incredible. And again, whether or not I'm a layman or a Luddite or whatever term we want to use, Paul, for you and I, right? I don't intimately understand it, but all I know is that it looks completely different. So for all of you out there, if you believe that you can do it by yourself, it's possible. However, how much time, energy, and resource are you going to be spending when that could be outsourced? And find the money, right? Like just go out and find the money so that you can hire a company that can do that for you.
Yeah, I think, sorry, I was just jumping in. I was saying, because as a business owner, you never value your time. You don't put a dollar figure on what I'm worth an hour.
Right.
And then when you do, and you add up all of that time, the learning gap, the learning curve to get in there and do it and everything else, how much time and money have you actually spent doing that?
And to me, at the age that I'm now at, I look at my return on energy, not necessarily my return on investment, right? So because really, what else can I be doing? So if I'm the business owner operator, what should I be focusing on, right? And what, again, should I third party or outsource? And that's something that today, in the world of today, if you can outsource something and you can do these community involvements, again, if there's a restaurant versus a meat packer versus a coffee house, like come together as a community and again, create that frequency with gift cards and future business and all those things. So Mitch,
and shout outs.
Yeah. Well, but really, we've seen that cartoon meme saying whatever we want to call it nowadays of like, it costs you zero money to do this, share a post, help incorporate someone else's business into your strategy or into your community, right? And you see, like I follow some of these like so strategic young entrepreneurs and some of these women entrepreneurs that have come together. And I have to tell you, like, I don't know if they spend any money on like true marketing because they just like and share everything themselves within that community. And it's brilliant, right? Like absolutely brilliant. So again, leverage your community and see, because again, like for myself, I'll buy local. Like if you say, hey, I have this and it's aging and it's about to be outdated, I want to see that because I will absolutely help with that, right? So anyway, I don't want to go too long, Mitch. So thank you very much for including me in this. I very much appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap up for the day because there's so much to do. This is not a normal MCC thing. This is an MCC event. This is going to be ongoing. We're going to be doing this on a regular basis just to bring perspective, get some other voices in here, talk about what we're literally experiencing right now, dispense some advice, some wisdom, and more importantly, just to talk about the state of where we're sitting at right now and what we've got to do to navigate, because much like you, business coaches or not, we're living through the same experiences as well. So you need to, if you haven't yet, go to Eventbrite. Of course, you're going to look up MCC Virtual Business Box Lunch. There's multiple dates planned for this coming up. If you come and tune in, you can watch us live on YouTube. And of course, we do have some stuff coming up that's very centered around being able to help you with your business. First one's free of charge, right? Going to be coming up already. Shift Business is coming up on May 14th. It's going to be the very next one we got. Free, 2 hours, 5 things that are just going to work to turn things on fast. Need to get that. You'll find those on Eventbrite as well. And lastly, we've got a paid event coming up this month, specifically around cash flow, the way finance and money works in your business and how to maximize that for yourself. You're going to find that on Eventbrite. So please go check us out. Mitch Cavage Coaching on Eventbrite. And otherwise, find us on all of the social channels. At Mitch Cavage is a great way to find us. At Mitch Cavage Official on Facebook is there. You're going to find Paul, Matt, myself. Shane's business is there. Portal IT. He's out there. Shane, I got to give you a shout out while we're sitting here as well. Watch some people commenting and popping out the past. We give a shout out to Local Meats in Leduc too. My boy Fong Shua, great real estate coach, great writing coach. Popped he's like, crap, I'm going to miss this. What's going on? Don't bother. Show up to the next one. I'm going to shout out Fong as well. We're sitting there. Ashley, Involving Consulting, Human Resources Capital. She commented too. She's getting a shout out here as well. So check out those businesses. Spend money, create velocity amongst your own community of businesses, your own local businesses. Find partners to bump up against and do something as simple as share out a Facebook post. Give them a little bit of love. Show up to an event like this. Come and join the live studio audience. Ask a question. Comment about something. Should say, hey, is it okay, Mitch, if I talk about business for a second? Hell yeah, we will give you a spot to do that, because if we all continue to work together, things are going to improve. So get to Eventbrite. Look up our events, MCC Virtual Business Box Lunch, Shift Business, Conquer Cash Flow is coming up right away. And of course, a shout out to my second love in life, Mitch Cambridge Coaching being the first one, and that's to Syndicate. Go to syndicate.org. Come and get to our events, because we built an entire community, a business club of like-minded people where we share a lot of stuff. That's my last shout out for the day. Thank you so much for joining us. Come and check us out again next week. Check out everything we do inside of Syndicate. Come to Mitch Cambridge Coaching. And if you are alone in the world and you have nobody else to work with here when it comes to this, call us, talk to us. After all, that's what we literally do. We help people navigate the stuff that makes life miserable. but yet can make your business so much better if you just do it the right way. Paul, Matt, thank you so much. Shane, Sheila, studio audience, love you guys for participating. The live people that are with us, big love to you. Big props. Come and get at us at Mitch Kamich. Otherwise, we will see you next time. I'm Mitch Kamich, the Savage in Business, and we are going to send you off to your weekend with lots of love, lots of hope, and of course, as always, lots of information and knowledge. Have a fantastic day, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you soon.